Petty GMS has made a major announcement. Kevin Harvick could potentially retire at the end of 2023, and Andretti Autosport is interested in also coming to NASCAR along with Formula One, among many other stories. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We got a ton of NASCAR and other motorsports stories discussed here today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into those really quickly. We're going to go ahead and start by talking about Alex Bowman, as both his 2023 Alloy paint schemes have been officially revealed. He is going to run a day scheme and a night scheme as well. I am going to be honest. I think the day scheme looks pretty good in my opinion. The night scheme is decent in my opinion. I like both of them. I don't love them, but I will say I prefer the day scheme over the night scheme, and we're going to see the day scheme more than the night scheme as well, which I prefer that over the night one. So I think it looks solid in my opinion. They don't look fantastic, but I do like the day scheme over the night scheme in my honest opinion. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about B. Laster. As it was announced yesterday that B. Laster is going to sponsor Live Fast Motorsports for 9 races in 2023. It's already been announced that Ziegler is going to sponsor Josh Bliggett for many races, and B. Laster did sponsor Live Fast Motorsports for both the races in 2022. So it's really exciting to see that B. Laster is going to be stepping up their sponsorship role with the team. I think it's really exciting news. Very happy to see that they are going to be having that, and I'm happy to see that B. Laster is stepping up how many races they're going to sponsor in 2023. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Carlos Padilla. As it was reported by Adam Stern, I believe yesterday, that Carlos Padilla will be leaving Pit Boss Grills for a new role as a marketing at Dow. Carlos Padilla, I believe, has been at Pit Boss Grills for many years and goes over to Dow, which has worked with many different companies. Dow, of course, I think still also sponsors Austin Dillon in the Cup Series. So it's exciting to see he's going over there. They did lose a pretty big person at Pit Boss Grills, but it's good to see that they will sponsor them at Dow. I think it's really exciting to see. Very happy to see for sure. And like I said, it's good to see that they will have him at Dow in 2023. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the Extreme ESeries. As it was announced on Friday that the Extreme ESeries has extended their TV contract through 2024 with Fox Sports. The Extreme ESeries is a series that started literally just last year, so it's really good to see the Extreme ESeries extending their contract. I don't know, there's not as many people to watch like the E-Series, like the, of course, Formula E as well. Not as many people watch that. I think it is really cool to see that they are extending their contract with Fox. They've got a lot of big-name drivers that are going to be running in that series in 2023. So I think it is really exciting for sure to see that the Extreme E-Series is going to be doing that. I think it's really exciting, and glad to see the Extreme E-Series is going to have a new contract with the Fox Sports. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Michael Cannon. As it was announced on Friday that Michael Cannon will be joining Foyt Racing in 2023. Michael Cannon is a really legendary race strategist who's done strategy for drivers like Santino Ferrucci and also for Scott Dixon as well. He'll once again be joining Foyt Racing and get an opportunity to work with that team in 2023. I think this is a really big pickup for him. He will be working, like I said, with I believe Santino Ferrucci mainly in 2023, and I think he'll do a very fantastic and a really good job helping him out there. So I'm very excited to see this, and I'm glad to see that he will be doing that. I think this is absolutely huge for the team to bring him in, and I think he'll do a very excellent and awesome job doing that in 2023. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Joe Williams. As it was announced on Monday evening that Joe Williams will be the crew chief for Brett Moffitt in 2023 for AM Racing. Joe Williams, I believe, is crew chief of Brett Moffitt in the past, and has also been a long-term crew chief in the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series as well. Brett Moffitt, of course, will also be driving for AM Racing in 2023, and with the experience that he's had working with him in the past, I do think that both Joe and Brett can work together really well, and I think it really will help him out. So I think this is a really great decision to bring Joe Williams in, and very happy to see that Joe Williams will be the crew chief for Brett Moffitt in 2023. I think it's a great decision and good decision to see him crew chief for Brett Moffitt in 2023. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Richard Childress Racing. As Richard Childress Racing has made some pretty big executive changes for their Xfinity Series team heading into 2023. First, Mike Shipley, who is no longer working at Stewart Haas Racing, will become the competition director for the RCR Xfinity Series team in 2023. Danny Lawrence, who's been at Richards Racing for many, many years, will begin to oversee the Xfinity Series alliances that they have with Richards Racing. This includes a team like our Motorsports, who's expected to make a return in 2023. Also, other organizations like Foyt Racing and maybe Brandonville Motorsports as well. I think these are pretty good, significant changes. I know that Mike Shipley did not do fantastic in Cup, but I think he and Cole Custer going down to Xfinity, I think is going to generally benefit that series going into 2023. Overall, I think these are pretty good, significant changes going into 2023 for Richards Racing, and hopefully it'll be able to help out both parties going into the 2023 season. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the tire test at COTA. As next week at Circuit Americas, there is going to be a tire test. What they're trying to test is basically maybe something that they can do, they can change some of the packages quintessentially and make the racing a little bit better. The 3 drivers that are expected to be at that tire test are Tyler Reddick, of course, will drive a Toyota driving for 2311 Racing. Kyle Busch will drive the number 8 for Richards Racing, so he'll be in a Chevy. And then, of course, Austin Cindric will be with the team at Penske Group. You've got 3 really good road course drivers who will be able to provide a lot of really strong and a lot of really positive feedback going into this. And I think it'll be able to help out make the racing a little better. Because let's be for real and let's be honest, the racing has not been good with the road courses and short tracks as good. Well, there's some good races, but not as many or as good as they absolutely could have been. And they could have definitely for sure been a hell of a lot better. So hopefully for sure COTA can be a lot better with the racing. And the road course racing can definitely be a little bit better. Hopefully it can, and let's see what happens. But hopefully they can improve the racing and make it a lot better, in my opinion. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Garrett Smithley. As it was announced over the weekend that Garrett Smithley will drive the number 99 for BJ McLeod Motorsports in the Xfinity Series in 2023. Initially, he was supposed to drive the number 78 car for BJ McLeod Motorsports, announced about a month and a half ago, but now he transitions over to drive the number 99 for the organization in 2023. I believe he's the only driver that is confirmed full-time for the organization to have there. It's unclear what other drivers are going to drive for the team in 2023, but I think it's a really good decision to bring a driver who's had experience at BJ McLeod Motorsports and a driver who does have a lot of experience. I know Garrett Smithley is a driver who doesn't have a ton of respect from a lot of his peers in the garage, but I think that Garrett is a very solid driver, a driver who's shown what he's capable of, and hopefully he can do a really good job with the team in 2023 and help the team going forward. So I think it'd be really exciting if he can do good, and hopefully he can do really, really good in 2023. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about that ice race. Now remember, there was supposed to be an ice race that was supposed to take place on March 4th through the 5th in Finland. Unfortunately, it was announced on Tuesday morning, that ice race that was supposed to happen has been unfortunately postponed. Now, why has the race been postponed? Well, unfortunately, like a lot of things in this country and a lot of things across the world, there are some supply chain issues. You would think by now some of these supply chain issues, especially since it's now 2023, you would have thought some of these issues would have been resolved at this point. But unfortunately, that is not the case. And sadly, they have not fixed those issues with the supply chains, which is very, very disappointing. Now, the race is hopefully going to still happen at some point before the future, before the end of 2023. But we do not know what a makeup date currently is at the moment. And like I said, I'm going to be honest, this is extremely disappointing that there's not going to be an ice race, at least for the foreseeable future, because I was really looking forward to this race, and I definitely was going to watch that race for sure. I think it's definitely very disappointing that it's not going to be happening in 2023, but it is what it still could happen, but it's right now just likely not going to happen for the foreseeable future. I think it's really, really disappointing, and it's frustrating that it's not, as of now, going to happen at this particular moment. Just very disappointing news and very sad news, in my opinion. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about 670 horsepower. As according to Austin Koninsky, put out a report, who of course works at Sportsnet, he put out a report yesterday talking about something Bob Pocker reported on. And he says that NASCAR currently is reluctant to increase the horsepower due to cost concerns relating to research and development. NASCAR's goal is to make costs a lot cheaper with the car, so if they basically start investing in certain things, it may cost a lot more money for the teams, and NASCAR is not planning to try to make costs a lot more expensive. Unfortunately, one of the issues with the racing, and I think one thing that a lot of us can agree with, is the short track and the road course products. was not as good. I think the intermediate racing and even some of the super speed racing I thought was pretty good, but that, of course, was not 670. That was 510. I think it is disappointing, though, the NASCAR is not talking about maybe increasing the horsepower just a little bit. I think I would love for it to maybe go up to 700 horsepower, because you don't have to make too many changes right there. You just have to increase it a little bit. I understand that costs are important. Again, NASCAR continues to talk about cutting costs, which it does make a lot of sense. You do want to cut costs so the teams can save money. But at the same token, in same time, it is very frustrating to see that NASCAR is a little bit reluctant to make changes to the car. And again, they should know that the racing wasn't as good on the short tracks and the road courses, and I think you need a little more horsepower on those tracks. Or take away the rear spoiler. Get that rear spoiler smaller, and I think the racing could actually be a lot better on those types of tracks. But it's just my honest opinion. I would love for them to change that. I don't know if they're going to change it. We'll have to see, but I don't know if they will make changes to that. And they probably should, though, make some changes to that heading into 2023. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Blaine Perkins. As it was announced on Tuesday that Monday, that Blaine Perkins is going to drive for SS Greenlight Racing in 2023, driving the 007 car. Blaine Perkins has been in the NASCAR Xfinity Series and the Truck Series for the last couple of years, and I believe he brings some sponsorship funding, which is a big reason why Blaine Perkins is getting this opportunity. Now, one thing about this is that this is going to once again be a Chevy, and we'll also have Mike Hillman Sr., who is a veteran of the NASCAR Cup Series, Xfinity Series, and Truck Series. He will be the crew chief for Blaine Perkins in 2023, which is a really good combination of him working with Blaine getting him some experience. I'll be honest about Blaine Perkins. I think Blaine's a decent driver, but I don't think he's a fantastic driver. Was not impressed with what he did in trucks last year. I just didn't think he had a lot of great runs in the Truck Series last year. No, I don't personally think he did a fantastic job. But I think this is a great opportunity for him to go full-time with the team. I think the goal for Blaine is to try to maybe get some top 10s, maybe some top 15s. I know those are high expectations for a team like SS Greenlight Racing, but I think they'll have RCR equipment helping them out going into the year, so that probably will be able to help them out just a little bit going into the season. That being said, though, I'm glad he's got an opportunity to run full-time once again, because he, of course, is not racing in trucks next year with that number 9 team, unless he does go back to the 9 truck, which at this point we don't know. But at this point, I'm glad he's getting an opportunity to drive with the team once again and hopefully do a really good job with SS Greenlight Racing. I'm wishing him the best of luck, and hopefully he'll do really good with SS Greenlight Racing in 2023. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Ryan Newman. As it was announced yesterday morning that Ryan Newman is going to run select SMART races and modified tour races in 2023, driving for Sadler Sandling Racing in 2023. Really excited to see that Ryan Newman is making a return to Wheel and Modified Tour Racing. Also glad to see that he's back in NASCAR in some sort of capacity. I believe Ryan Newman did make one start last year in the Wheel and Modified Tour Series. I think he ended up driving for that same team last year at Richmond. There was a lot of talk that he maybe wanted to come back. He was wanting to come back, but no one was giving him that opportunity and a chance to make a return. So it's good to see that he's getting an opportunity to race. I think Ryan Newman will be extremely competitive in those races. He's really good at these types of races. So it's good to see that he is coming back. I would definitely love for Ryan Newman, though, in the future to make a official return one of NASCAR's top divisions, because I think that would be very, very exciting and really, really cool if he got that chance and that opportunity to do it. So I hope he does make a return one day to the NASCAR Cup Series or maybe even the Xfinity Series one day. But it's good to see that Ryan Newman is making a return to racing once again. He, of course, won an Asterax race last year as well, which is great, and nearly won the championship there. In my opinion, he probably should have won the championship, but that's just my opinion. I would love for him to win that, but honestly, I don't know if he will. So good to see Ryan Newman making a return, and glad to see that he'll be racing once again in 2023. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Chicagoland Speedway. As it was announced on Friday that Chicagoland Speedway is returning in 2023. But it will not be with any sort of NASCAR, IndyCar, or even F1 or any sort of series like that. It is going to be with the Super Motocross Series. The track, in my opinion, looks absolutely incredible, and it's really good that it'll be right in front of a really, really massive crowd. Great to see Chicagoland is making a return as well. I believe it will be the first time there will be any sort of racing on the track since 2019 when the NASCAR Cup Series raced there. So I think it's great that they are returning to Chicagoland in 2023, at least for some sort of racing. And people have really been begging for Chicagoland to come back, and trust me, I'm one of those people that really was wanting it to come back. But here's the reality and the truth. If you want Chicago to have any sort of chance in the next couple of years to come back, because there's not going to be going back to Chicagoland, at least for the next few years, with the Chicago Street Course race going on at the moment. You need to show up to this track, though, to show support. And I hope people do show up, just like with North Wilkesboro, where people showed up to those late model races, show up to the Super Motocross race to show at least some sort of support for Chicagoland. But I just thought it was really cool that Chicagoland is coming back. It's great to see racing coming back. And maybe in the future, NASCAR will make a return to the racetrack. I don't know if that is going to be possible, but I really hope it does become an actual possibility. I think it would be really exciting, really, really awesome, and I hope that they do make a return to that track for NASCAR in the future. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the SRX. As it was tweeted out by Don Hawk on Monday morning that the SRX has a major announcement coming very, very soon. For those of you who are unaware, the Asterax has been teasing some pretty big announcements, and what they've been teasing is track announcement, which they announce every single track for 2023. Now we're just waiting on sponsorships and drivers. The big question is what drivers could potentially race in the Asterax in 2023. Maybe they bring Chase Elliott back. I know that A-Shock is not going to be sponsoring him, I don't think, in any sort of capacity in 2023, so maybe they bring Chase Elliott back. What about Kyle Larson? Kyle Larson would be a great driver to be in the series. I know that they really do want to bring Kyle Larson out and run, so maybe that could be a possibility. What about Carl Edwards? Carl Edwards, a driver I think would be really cool to bring out, so why not bring him into this series? Kyle Busch, another driver that I think would be really great for him to run in this series. There's a lot of drivers that would be really fun to race in the Asterax. Even Bubba Wallace being another name I bring up in the conversation because of his popularity. Eric Jones, another driver that I think would be really fun to get an opportunity to race. There's a lot of drivers, in my opinion, that would be really cool to come out and race in the Asterax. So who knows who they're going to end up bringing out. Whoever they decide, though, I think will be really, really exciting regardless. And hopefully, whoever does decide to come out will be very, very excited as well. And hopefully we'll see some teams come out and race in these events in 2023. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Austin Cindric. As it was announced over the weekend that Austin Cindric will compete in the 2023 Rolex 24. Now, this had already been announced, but the team had not been announced for where he will run. Well, he is not going to be running for the overall win, but he will be driving in the LMP2 class in 2023 with Rick Ware Racing. That's right, Rick Ware Racing will be entering a car in LMP2 for the full season in 2023. They will have three other drivers and teammates of Austin Cindric in this event. Eric Lux and Pietro Fittipaldi will run the full schedule with the team in 2023. And Devlin DeFrancesco, who I believe also won the main event last year for the Rolex 24 for the second class, he will be teammates with Austin Cindric as well and will run the endurance events as well. For the LMP2 class, I think this is probably actually going to be the team to beat. I think Tower Motorsports has a really good combination as well. I think they've got a really strong and really great combination there, and I think that they're going to have a really fun and really great opportunity to be very, very competitive as well. And you've got a lot of really big IndyCar presence in this event as well, because you've also got another driver named Will Power who's competing for the event as well, who's also going to be competing in a Rolex 24 as well. I forgot to talk about that, but he will drive for the team, for the Mercedes Sun Energy team in, I think, GTD or GTLM. So we'll see what happens there. But I think Cindric's got a really good chance to get it done. I think he's got a really good chance to win the second group, and I think this is a really great combination and a really good pairing. So I'm definitely excited to see what happens and glad to see that Austin will be entering the Rolex 24 in 2023. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Kaulig Racing. As Kaulig Racing has a pretty big announcement coming here in the not-so-distant future around another team. Kaulig Racing put out a pretty big teaser yesterday on their page and basically said number 13 with eye emojis, indicating, like I said, a big announcement is coming from Kaulig Racing. Now, what could this potential announcement be? Could it be a fourth car for the Xfinity Series, maybe a Justin Haley? That's definitely very, very possible, but I don't think that's actually going to be the case. My theory and suspicion around what team is they're going to actually end up entering, I actually think that they're going to be announcing a third Cup Series entry. Brett Griffin on the Christmas edition of the Door Bumper Clear podcast, he indicated on his channel that basically that he is not going to be full-time next year, so it sounds like that he will be in spotting a third entry. This could be the third entry. My theory is that it's going to be Daniel Hemrick who's going to drive this car, because Daniel Hemrick has sponsorship and funding, and he drives full-time for Kaulig Racing. And Kaulig has entered him in the past. And of all the drivers having the Xfinity Series, I would think with him having as much Cup Series experience as he has, I think that he will end up being the driver who drives this number 13 car for the Cup Series. But I think it is good to see that Kaulig Racing is going to enter another car likely for the Cup Series that will get the field a lot stronger for the 500. There's already 39 confirmed entries, and it sounds like we may have 41, which means people will go home, which I think is really exciting for the event overall. And like I said, I think it's really cool to see that Kaulig Racing is going to be entering likely a third car. It could just be an Xfinity Series team for Justin Haley, but I'll be honest, I think it's just going to be for the Cup Series for the Daytona 500. Regardless, so I think it is really, really exciting, really cool to see, and very happy to see that we will see Kaulig Racing enter a car more probably likely in the 500, another car, which I think will be great for the sport. Really excited for sure, and glad to see that Kaulig Racing is entering another car in 2023, whether it's for Cup or the Xfinity Series. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode as we're talking about the Cars Tour. As the Cars Tour on Monday made a massive, and major announcement. There's new ownership going into the Cars Tour in 2023. This ownership group is made up of Dale Jr., Kevin Harvick, Jeff Burton, and Justin Marks, who now have bought the Cars Tour and will have ownership of the series. One thing that is not going to be changing, though, is the day-to-day operations. There'll be no changes how the day-to-day operations goes. The only thing that will be changing for this is basically that the Cars Tour will have new operations and basically run by those four people, though day-to-day operations are not going to change. This is absolutely huge for the Cars Tour because the Cars Tour is growing. And basically, Jack Minnelli brought the series basically from the water and basically brought the series up to be very, very prosperous. There'll be 19 races in the 2023 season, and I think this is absolutely huge for the Cars Tour in many ways. Have four drivers four former drivers as well, who know how racing works. Dale Jr., who has basically found drivers in this series. He's got Carson Quaffle, who's a future driver, could make a success. He's got, of course, Josh Berry, who's come from the series. Kevin Harvick's been helping a lot recently with the Cars Tour, was actually testing basically a Cars Tour car, was doing really great there. Jeff Burns, that'll be a little bit of a surprise, and Justin Marks, who's been making big ambitions. He took Trackhouse Racing from a napkin, and in 2 years is already a championship contending team, and could win a championship in 2023 in just 3 years, which is absolutely incredible. I think this is absolutely huge for the Cars Tour to have all four of these people here, four big influential figures in the NASCAR industry, and I think it's just incredible that this is happening. I think this is phenomenal news. I think it's amazing news, and it's fantastic to see that the Cars Tour has all these big names coming in, working with a series, trying to help it grow, and I think this is absolutely phenomenal and amazing for the series, for the Cars Tour in general. It's just great to see, because this has been rumored that there was going to be some people buying it. Junior's been rumored to buy the team, basically the series, and I think it's just absolutely great to see that the Cars Tour is going to get some expansion. I think it's great. I think it's awesome, and happy to see that the Cars Tour is going to have some new ownership. I think it's great for the sport and racing in general, in my opinion. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Andretti versus F1. Now, if you've been paying attention over the last week or so, it was announced, I think, on Wednesday or Thursday that Andretti was going to be entering a new manufacturer into Formula One, and that is Cadillac. Now, this no secret that basically the FIA, they really want to see them get in. Mohammed bin Sulayem has really been supportive of getting them into Formula One, and he really wants this new manufacturer to come in. Unfortunately, you have a lot of opposition for pretty much a majority of the organizations, including Mercedes. You also have Red Bull that's against them. You have most of the manufacturers support, except probably 2 teams that are really against this project. And a lot of these teams, and there was actually a really big article that came out from BBC saying that they are kind of calling out IndyCar, which got a lot of fans mad. And I read that article a couple days ago, and it just baffled me how ridiculous, because you guys tried to enter a car into the Indy 500, and you failed. You guys rushed your car, did a terrible job getting it in, and you failed. Now, why is there this much opposition from these teams? It's obvious. There's opposition because, one, they don't like Americans. Plain and simple. They love American money, they love the dollars, but they don't really like Americans. Second thing, would lose money. Plain and simple. That's one of the reasons why they are against this and why they're mad about this. But I just think this is completely stupid. It's just frustrating because, I understand where the frustration comes from, is they don't want to lose money, right? But at the same token, same time, you've got to grow Formula One. And if they don't get approved, that will happen. Now, Michael Andretti, He's been against this. He's been going on the offense. He's been against this. He's basically, we have a new manufacturer. We basically have a manufacturer that's going to come in. And the whole badging thing, which I've heard about, that's kind of a frustrating thing as well. And I don't understand why there's anything. Well, I understand people being mad about badging stuff. But it's just a whole mess. You know what I mean? It's this whole thing is situation's complete mess. It's frustrating. Andretti's been trying to get in the last couple of years, and you got these teams that are not budging because they don't want to lose any money. And look, I understand that. I completely get and agree with them not wanting to lose money. But at the same token, same time, do you want your series to grow in the United States? Because you got 3 tracks. You shouldn't be against it. In my opinion, it's kind of frustrating, and it's kind of stupid that it's gotten to this point, and we should never have really gotten to this point to begin with. So it is what it is. It's really frustrating. Hopefully this budges. We know that the president of the FIA really wants this. The question is, will the teams approve it? That's one thing to watch going forward. And I saw some of the comments. It's just completely naive and just ridiculous comments from some people. But it is what it is, and hopefully things can get resolved so we can see the Cadillac come in and GM come in, because it'll be the first time we've seen them come in. I think it would be great, and we'll see what happens going forward with this whole situation. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Dale Jr. As the first of 2 races that Dale Jr. is going to run in Xfinity Series in 2023 has been officially revealed. He will be racing in the Xfinity Series race at Bristol with Unilever, which will likely be the Hellmann's brand, which is associated with the Unilever brand, is going to be the sponsor for Dale Jr. in that event. It was also announced Unilever is going to sponsor Justin Allgaier for 6 races on the number 7 car in 2023 as well. Dale Jr., like I mentioned, is going to be expanding his schedule in 2023, where he will run 2 Xfinity Series races in 2023. One with Bassford Shops on the car. That race has not been announced at this point. I'll talk about that, where I think he'll race there in just a second. But this will be the one of the 2 races that he is going to run. I think this is a really great move for Dale Jr. to run at Bristol. Dale Jr. has raced at Bristol many, many times. This will be the first time since he retired from the Cup Series, though, that he's racing there. But I think he raced last year in 2016, I think, in the Xfinity Series. So it's been about 6-7 years since he raced in the Xfinity Series. But on the Cup Series side of things, he's not raced in 5 years. But it's great that he's going to a new track. Now let's talk about the other race as well. Where will Dale Jr. race in the second one? I think there's 2 potential possibilities. One, Martinsville. Dale Jr.'s raced in Martinsville many, many years. He's raced there a lot, especially recently. He could run there. Another one could be Richmond. He's raced in Richmond quite a bit, so that could be another possibility where he ends up running. Or maybe he goes to another track and ends up running there. Maybe he goes to Nashville. Who knows? Nashville would be a great addition. I think it would be fun for him to race in Nashville, get another car in the field, and it would be really, really great for sure. Wherever Dale Jr. ends up racing, though, you're going to see huge attendance. You're going to see huge TV ratings. Dale Jr. brings a lot of the fans in. And I think in all honesty, in all seriousness, I think it's great to see that Dale Jr. is going to run. I hope that Dale Jr. feature maybe decides to go full-time. I think that'd be really, really cool in Xfinity. But in all seriousness, in all honesty, I think it's absolutely huge for the sport that Dale Jr. is showing interest in running more events. And I think it's great that Dale Jr. is going to run the Xfinity Series race at Bristol. I think it's great for the sport that he's going to enter more races. And like I said, it's great to see that Dale Jr. is going to enter the Xfinity Series race at Bristol. I think it's really, really great to see. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the first of 3 major stories of today's episode, as we're talking about Andretti Autosport. Now, we've already talked a little bit about Andretti Autosport trying to get into Formula 1. But there is a very interesting quote that came out from an article from Forbes. I think Bruce Martin was the one interviewing Michael Andretti. And this has to do with NASCAR. Now, according to what Adam Stern reported, he basically says that Andretti has also revealed to me that he intends to pursue a NASCAR Cup Series team once he gets into a F1 team. He admitted into the F1 World Championship. We have to make sure we get into NASCAR in a few years as well. Now, if you've been around the block for a very, very long time, Andretti has been also trying to get into NASCAR really since the last decade. And they actually came very close to getting into NASCAR as early as about 2013. Remember, in 2012, Andretti actually, I believe, already had an announcement, and they were planning to enter with Dodge for 2013. And they were going to have Kurt Busch as one of the drivers, and maybe also Matt Kenseth was another driver, I believe, that was rumored to get behind the wheel of this entry. Unfortunately, Dodge left the sport after 2012 on a full basis, so they lost that opportunity because they had a Gen 6 ready to go with Dodge, and that did not end up going through. It did not end up coming through fruition. Then about 5 or 6 years ago, there were rumors that Andretti was going to come into NASCAR, and they were talking about bringing Honda into the sport and maybe partnering up with Petty as well. That did not end up coming to fruition. And there were rumors as far back as about a year or two ago, they were showing interest once again in coming into the sport. Now you've got them actually saying that they are planning to come to NASCAR, which I think is absolutely huge for the sport. And unlike Formula One, where there is a lot of opposition right now for them to come into NASCAR, into F1, NASCAR welcomed them with open arms. The only thing they need is money. And I can tell you what, Michael Andretti has enough money. If he's got enough money to build $200 million basically with the Guggenheim brand and basically backing them with Guggenheim and all that stuff and the Group 1001 and Gaybridge, you absolutely have that money. He's got the money ready to go, and he can come to NASCAR. Yes, you need a charter, and I think someone will be willing to give up their charter for Andretti to come in. Or if he brings a new manufacturer like, let's say, Honda, who has shown in the past interest into coming into NASCAR, I think that would be huge. And he would bring a new manufacturer in as well. Now, the big question is what drivers would they get? Maybe they bring Colton Herta. If they can't get an F1 team, why not bring Colton Herta to NASCAR? Colton Herta has shown interest in wanting to come to NASCAR, so why couldn't Colton Herta get the opportunity to race in NASCAR? I think that would be really, really fascinating, and I think that would be really cool as well if they could bring him in. What about some past retired drivers? What about a Ryan Newman? What about other drivers who raced in NASCAR in the past? I think that'd be really, really cool. But I think it's great for the sport if a team like Andretti can come into the sport and race in NASCAR. I've been wanting them to come, and I think it would be great because the goal of the Next Gen car is to attract new teams or new manufacturers. Why not Andretti be the team that attracts Honda? Or maybe they attract Cadillac. Since they got a partnership with Cadillac now for their F1 program, why not attract a new manufacturer to come in? I think that'd be really, really cool, and I think it'd be really, really awesome for the sport as well. Regardless of what happens, though, and what ends up happening, I just think it'd be fun for Andretti to come in and be in the sport. Because NASCAR, unlike F1, like I said, would be way more welcoming to come in than F1. Because we're not like a sport that we care about teams, and we really want these teams to come in. The goal of NASCAR, they want more teams to show up. And with the money and stuff, because Andretti does have a lot of money, why not come in? Bring some drivers as well, bring some IndyCar drivers, see what they can accomplish, see what they can do, and we'll see what happens. But it sounds like a big deal and a huge announcement regardless of what ends up happening. We'll see what happens, but it sounds like Andretti's interested, and I really hope that there's a chance that Andretti does actually come to NASCAR in the future. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next major story of today's episode as we're talking about Kevin Harvick. Now, over the last couple months, there's been a lot of rumors and rumors about Kevin Harvick's future. These rumors started, I believe, around the Las Vegas or the Charlotte Roval weekend. We're on the basically around the paddock or basically on pit road. Gene Haas has indicated that Kevin Harvick could retire at the end of 2023, and that's where all the Ryan Preece rumors began to start. And when Ryan Preece eventually got announced, that's when the rumors basically started. Then in December, in early December, Kevin Harvick said that he was been indicated, basically have an announcement for his future past 2023, if he was going to return in 2024 or he was going to retire in 2023. Well, we might have already gotten our answer because there was an image that came out on Reddit yesterday at the production center. If you take a really close look at the image that you probably just saw a second ago, you will see a forever patch. What could that indicate? Well, it could indicate one of two things. One, it could indicate that forever could be the number that Kevin Harvick maybe tries to enshrine in the Hall of Fame. The other thing, and a lot of people are thinking this could be, is that this is going to be Kevin Harvick's farewell tour. It's no secret that Kevin Harvick at the end of 2023 will be at age of 48 years old. Now, Kevin, like I said, has indicated maybe he would come back in 2024, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. With how frustrated Kevin Harvick has been with the sport, with his new endeavor going to the car store, probably focusing on that a little bit more, and with Keelan working on making his way through the racing world, with him being 11 years old at the end of 2023, Kevin Harvick is going to want to focus, I think, on spending more time with his family. Plus, Kevin Harvick has also indicated that he does want to join the Fox Sports booth as well, has indicated that he wants to go to the booth. But if Kevin Harvick does actually end up retiring in 2023, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I am going to be pretty sad if he does end up retiring. And I'll explain why I'm going to be a little sad. While I wasn't the biggest fan of Kevin Harvick growing up, at least at first, I have grown to respect Kevin Harvick a lot more as a driver in this series. Kevin Harvick is one of the greatest NASCAR drivers of all time. Won Cup Series championship 2014. 60 NASCAR Cup Series wins. One of only, I think, 10 drivers who've accomplished that feat. He's won a Cup, like I said, 2 Xfinity Series titles, 1 Cup Series title. He has won every crown jewel you can think of. The Coke 600 2 or 3 times. A Daytona 500. He's won the Brickyard 400 3 times. He's won the Southern 500, I think, 2 or 3 times. Kevin Harvick has accomplished a lot in his NASCAR career and has done a lot of great things for racing in the sport in general. And he's going to leave a legendary legacy abroad, and He's going to leave a legendary legacy. If this is really his last season, he's going to leave a big legacy. And I absolutely 100% think he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. If anyone says he isn't, just look at his statistics and then come back to me, because you look at what Kevin Harvick has accomplished in racing, it's just absolutely incredible. And he will be the last driver of an era of drivers who came in the late 90s and early 2000s who will retire from full-time competition if this is truly it. Yes, still have Jimmy Johnson and Kurt Busch Racing, which we're going to be talking about Jimmy Johnson here in just a second. I think that he's the last guy who really is full-time, because after him, the next one is Kyle Busch, and Kyle Busch started racing in 2005. So if this is really it for Kevin Harvick, it is going to be really sad and a little bit disappointing, because, again, Kevin Harvick is a legend of our sport, and it'll be a very sad day for the racing world in general if he does officially decide to retire. Again, he's still coming back in 2024, but I'll be honest, his performance has also been declining over the last few years. I got a feeling this could end up being his worst year, because SHR just did not seem like they were confident enough. They didn't seem fantastic. They didn't seem like they had a ton of speed and a lot of pace, and they weren't that fast in 2022, and I'm a little worried about them going into 2023 this season as we get close to the start of the season. I really hope that there's a chance that Kevin Harvick returns in 2024, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, I think Kevin Harvick is sadly going to retire from the sport at the end of 2023. It's really disappointing. If it is true that he does retire, it's going to be really disappointing. I hope he does make a return in 2024. I hope he does make at least some select starts in 2024. That'd be really, really cool if he made some select starts with a team like maybe like Rickwell Racing. If Kevin retires at this point, I would think Cole Custer gets a seat again, takes over the 4 car, and takes that seat, or Ryan Preece moves over to the 4. That's what I'm thinking at this point. But regardless of what happens, what decision Kevin Harvick decides to do, I respect it. Wish him the best of luck regardless, and we'll probably know here very soon, because we are getting close to the start of the year. We're only about 39 or 40 days away from the Daytona 500. I hope that Kevin Harvick returns in 2024, but I'm going to be honest, I think this is going to be Kevin Harvick's final NASCAR Cup Series season. Wishing the best of luck, though, regardless, and hope he decides to come back, but honestly, I'm not really excited, because I think this will be his last year in NASCAR Cup Series in 2023. I think 2023 is going to be the final season, in my honest opinion. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the final major story of today's episode, as we're talking about petty GMS racing. Now, I haven't really talked much about this. For the last couple of days, there's been a major announcement that has been being teased. Well, this morning, just a few minutes ago, Petty GMS made a massive, massive announcement. And it's a massive one, because Petty GMS, once again, is going to be rebranding. Their new name, going to 2023, is going to be called Legacy Motor Club. It was also announced that Jimmy Johnson is going to drive the number 84 car in 2023. A lot of us thought it was going to be the number 49, but 84 is the number that Jimmy Johnson is going to run in at number 20 in 2023. It does make a lot of sense, the number 84, considering basically the 48 used to be what his number used to be. It's just basically the opposite. He'll drive the number 84. It was also just confirmed a few minutes ago that Carvana, which has been sponsoring Jimmy Johnson the last 2 years in IndyCar, is going to be Jimmy Johnson's sponsor in the Cup Series for the Daytona 500 in 2023. Now, nothing else besides the Carvana sponsorship for the 500 and any other races have been confirmed. My speculation on what other races Jimmy is going to run in 2023, I'm going to speculate right now, maybe he's going to run some other races. Maybe he'll run Dover. I know he's great at Dover. Maybe he runs there. He won there 13 times. So why maybe he goes there? Maybe he goes to Gateway, World Technology Raceway. I might be at that race, so maybe he goes there. I would think the Chicago Street Course would be a really big possible option. He's indicated that he wants to run there. Maybe he runs North Wilkesboro. North Wilkesboro is another race he's had interest in, and I don't think he's going to run the Indy 500 this year, so I would think he could maybe do that. And there might be other races around the calendar as well. I think it's really great, though, that Jimmy's going to have a new brand, a new identity as well. And let's go back to the brand and the change of the team. I know that this is going to probably be a hot take, because I know a lot of people are really showing basically some interest in talking about this. I actually do like this name change. I think it's an interesting name change. Legacy Motor Club basically shows the legacy of racing in general, and you've got two of the legends of the sport as well. They have been Richard Petty and Jimmy Johnson owning the organization and the brand. And then I think it's really cool they're bringing, I think it's actually a really great name. The Legacy Motor Club name is an interesting name. There's a lot of name changes coming in there. Of course, D-Jarb rebranded to Tricon Garage, Trackhouse Racing, equals 2311 Racing. Over the last couple of years, been so many new rebrands and so many new changes coming in. And I just think it's absolutely fascinating, all these new changes that are really coming into sport world in general and racing in general, all these name changes. And I think this is such a really cool name. I like the name. I know some people in the comments of this video are probably going to disagree, and you can have your own opinions, but I do like the name as well. Nothing else really is going to be changing with the team. It's still going to be the same drivers on the team. Of course, you're going to have Noah Gragson driving the 42 car with Luke Lambert. He'll be a rookie this season on a full-time basis, which a lot of people are really hyping up Noah Gragson going into season, which I think Noah Gragson will have a pretty good season. I expect him to have a pretty good year. We'll see what happens. And, of course, Erik Jones, who I think a lot of people who actually have him going to the playoffs, I think he just misses the playoffs. But I think he'll be very competitive. It's kind of the future is kind of unclear on what's going on with Focus Factor going into the season, because there's been a lot of talk about that coming. They may no longer be a petty GMS or Legacy Motor Club now. I got to call them that going into this season. But I really do like the rebrand. I really do like the change going into 2023, and I really like it a lot. And I'll tell you what, this team is setting themselves up for a really strong future. I expect this to be one of the few teams that really I think has a big improvement year. I think 23-11, you've got Bubba and Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace and Tyler Reddick driving for that team. I think that team's going to be strong. But I think that going into this year, I look at Petty to be a team that really steps up to the plate and really shows what they're capable of going into the season, because I think that they're going to show some stuff. And I think Petty's team, Legacy Motor Club, is going to have their best season in a very long time. I expect them to be very competitive, and I think you're going to see them win a race or two this year. I wouldn't even be shocked at this point if Noah Gragson scores a victory, because I think Noah Gragson's got a lot of capabilities and a lot of talent. And it wouldn't shock me or surprise if Erik Jones does make the playoffs. I still don't have him making the playoffs, but I think Erik Jones will get a win this year at Talladega. And I think this team, by the end of the year, they're going to be consistently competing for top 5s and top 10s. And I really think this team is setting themselves up for a really bright future going to season. And like I said, I think this is a really cool change. I really like they're changing it to Legacy Motor Club. It's an interesting choice because you got 2 7-time champions, Richard Petty and Jimmy Johnson, 2 of the greatest NASCAR drivers ever, and 2 of the greatest people in NASCAR ever. And just teaming up together and working, it's going to be really cool to see what this team is going to be capable of going into next year. And I really do like the change. I really like the rebranding to Legacy Motor Club. I think it's a fascinating change. I think it's a fabulous change in my opinion. And I think it's a really cool change. And it was a really good decision for them to do this in my opinion. So I'm excited about this. I'm excited they're going to see this. And I think that this team, and I'm not kidding when I say this, I can see them winning a championship here in the next couple of years. I think they've got a lot of potential to really do that, and I think they're setting themselves up for a great future. And I expect this year to be the best year for this team in a very long time. I think because Erik Jones, I think he's going to get the best out of that equipment, and I think Noah Gragson, he's also going to do a really awesome and a really killer job this year. And I think in the next few years, who knows what's going to happen with Legacy Motor Club. I think they're setting themselves up for a really awesome future. This team is heading on the right track. It's going great for them, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen. So I'm pumped up, really excited to see what happens, and I'm glad to say today we'll be rebranding to Legacy Motor Club heading into 2023. Really exciting news and great news to see that they'll be rebranding to Legacy Motor Club in 2023. So, that is for today's NASCAR and Motorsports news video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel, notifications on, to be notified when video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Links description below that, and comment below your thoughts below on today's video. What are your thoughts about the rebrand change? Do you like the name or not? Let me know in the comments below. And do you think Kevin Harvick will retire at the end of 2023 or not? Let me know in the comments below. Tomorrow on the channel, there could be another NASCAR news video. We're going to have to wait and see. Friday, there should be another NASCAR news video. And there'll be some special videos coming out this weekend. And we're getting close to the start of the NASCAR season, and I cannot wait. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.